Starting today, what we would do is we would get into the actual details about the project, about the role of a business analyst, right? The 6 knowledge areas. The next chapters, 2 to 7, would focus on that, right? So we'll pick up each knowledge area, what a business analyst needs to know, and then focus on that and learn that in detail, right? Now, so in the previous 3 sessions, I've given you that high level view that these are the things that a business analyst would do, that he would help out in planning, he would understand requirements, he would document them, he would communicate the requirements, he would help in testing, he will identify opportunities, right? I've given that high level overview. Now we are actually getting into the details and then see, what do we do as on a day-to-day basis? What all details that, what all detailed activities that we'll be doing. So that is what would be the focus going forward for the next, 20-25 sessions. Okay. So today's session, I would start with requirements planning. So before this, enterprise analysis happens wherein you will identify opportunities and then, you would create a business case for it and get budgets approved, right? But it's a little complicated, and then you would be in a much better position to understand it at the end of the session. That's the reason I'm taking it at the end of it. So today I will start the requirements planning, right? So now the context is that once the project budgets are approved and the team is onboarded, okay? So what are the first few things that you would do? So that would be the focus of today's session. Okay, so a typical project, once it starts, right? So on the first day or the first week of the project, what all activities you would do would come under this purview of the requirements plan. Okay. Now throughout this course, I will take one example of a mobile banking app so that you can relate to it, right? Let's assume that we are developing a new mobile banking app. Now for a bank, let's call it a Citibank, and for Citibank we are developing a new mobile banking app. And if we are the business analyst, how do we proceed? Through whom will we talk to get the requirements? All that we'll try to relate to that, because it will give us a real-time feeling about how to approach a project. Now the reason I picked up that example is because most of us tend to understand that the functionality of a mobile banking app, because we use that, right? So if we have picked up some other complicated example, I have to again spend a lot of time in explaining the functionality, which we could avoid when we are looking at this particular example. Okay, so today's session would be on the planning, and I would teach you how to create the requirements planning details, which will go in as part of the project plan. You will understand the various roles which get into the project, whom you will interact with. You will also learn how to manage the requirements and scope, and when changes comes into the project, how do you manage that changes coming in. You will also learn how to manage the risk related to the requirements. Right? So the next 2-3 days you would focus on these topics and then learn. At the end of it, I'll take one of my projects that I have done as a case study, and then we will discuss. We'll try to apply the learning what we have done in the in these 2-3 sessions to that particular scenario, and then see how I've handled it, or how you could we'll get into that discussion more, and then see how we would have how we should proceed for these activities. Okay. Yeah. Now the first step, that's the first thing that you do once you get into a project, is figure out who are the key people in the project. Okay. On day one, ideally you should be doing this. And so once you get into a project, figure out who are the key people. Now, who are the people that you generally interact with, and who are the other people in the project who will contribute to the project? Let's spend some time understanding those roles. Right. Now, the most important and the senior most person in the project is the executive sponsor. Right. Now, he is the person who is allocating budgets to your project. Right. So he would approve the project, and then he would allocate budget. Now, when I say allocate budget, he would generally be the head of a business unit, and as part of that business unit planning, he would have allocated some budgets to implement this project. Right. So that is how it would be. Right. Now let's say if this mobile banking application is there, so yeah, if the mobile banking application is there, now this application would be used by what? The retail customers, individuals like us. So the head of that unit, business unit of mobile, retail banking head would approve that maybe 2 million or 3 million, whatever it costs to develop that mobile banking application. So he would be called as the executive sponsor. So the role he would play in the project is executive sponsor. Now usually these are very senior guys, so they would be at that senior vice president, executive vice president levels, and we will not even interact with them, right? So for all good reasons, you might not even talk to the executive sponsor in the project, right? Unless it's very high visibility project, they don't get involved into the day-to-day operational activities, right? So they only look at whether the project is running smoothly as per the timelines, and it's on track or not, right? If everything is going fine, they're good with it. They would not interfere. They will not interfere onto the project. Okay. Now, when the executive sponsor is not interfering onto day-to-day activities, he would want somebody to actually own that and oversee the project on a day-to-day basis. So what he would do is he would allocate somebody from his team to own the system, right? So pretty much this guy would be the person who will take all decisions regarding the system, right? He would say, whether some functionality should be added or removed, or finally your BRD and everything would be approved by the solution owner, right? So all executive decisions regarding the scope or requirements or the system would be taken by this solution owner, right? Now usually all approvals are given by this person, so you will interact with him from a business requirements point of view. So he will approve all your business requirements, right? But again, this guy is also a senior person. He will not have enough time to spend with you to explain the detailed requirements to you, right? So what he does is he would allocate some people from his team who can actually spend time with you and give the detailed requirements, right? Now these are called as the subject matter experts, okay, or SMEs. So you must have heard this term, SMEs. So they understand the business in and out. They are experts in that particular business. They are experts in that subject matter. So hence that name, subject matter experts, right? Now it is these people that you would interact with and understand the requirements in detail, okay? So a lot of your time is spent interacting with these SMEs. So if you want to understand, how does the functionality of a funds transfer happen in the mobile banking application, right? So who is going to tell you? The SMEs are going to tell you. Any business functionality, these are the people who are going to explain you the detailed process and what the system should be doing, right? So you will understand the complete functionality from these guys, okay? Now usually there would be some 3 or 4 SMEs for a project, depending on those modules which they are experts in. You will talk to them and understand the requirements, okay? And once you talk to them, understand the requirements and create the BRD, so that would be approved by the solution owner. He would review the document and see whether it captures all the details and want the way he wants it. He would approve it, okay? Then you would have the end user community as well, who are actually the people who are using the system. So for all good reasons, you might not even talk to them, right? Like in this case, a mobile banking application, you might not even talk to the end user, because end user would be the customers of the bank. Customers of Citibank would be the end users, right? So you will not talk to them. You will not get a chance to interact with them to get the get their feedback or anything. It's primarily the SMEs who are performing the job of giving you the detailed requirements, okay? But end users are the final team which is basically using your system, okay? Then you would have we understand the role of a business analyst. Since the last 3 sessions you have been discussing what is it that you'll be doing and all. So our role would also be important in the project. There would be project managers, right? So from the client side as well as the vendor side, we have project managers. There would be programmers who are actually doing the coding, okay? And then there would be architects who are doing the design. And then there would be the QA teams who are doing the testing, right? Now there would be also teams who would manage the system, like the ops team, right? So primarily ops team would have a infrastructure analyst and then the DBA who would basically look at the hardware and then the database, making sure that they are working fine, right? So these are primarily, once the system is live, then they would see whether there is enough space in the hard disk, so that if there is a space crunch, it will result in errors, right? So to avoid those kind of situations, the DBA has to keep on monitoring the the health of the database, right? Similarly, the infrastructure analyst also has to specify what are the hardware requirements for the system. You would have to monitor the the hardware and then the networking working infrastructure to ensure that they are up and running all the time. All these would be ops activities. You might not even interact with them a lot of times, right? So the data modeling and all would also be done by the application architect. Which generally tend to call this person as a technical architect who would do both application design and the database design as well. Then you have audit teams also who would ensure that whether you're following all those standards and procedures which are defined for those particular processes. All that would be taken care by the audit team, right? So these are the typical roles in a project. Okay. Now primary ones that you would interact with, close to 70-75% of the time you will talk only with the subject matter experts, right? So these are the people who will give you all the detailed functional requirements. Okay. Then you would also talk to the solution owner for getting the approval of the systems, right? And you'd also talk to the architects and then the operations team and the dev team and QA team to figure out the non-functional requirements. Okay. So we'll understand about the non-functional requirements at a later point in time. When time comes, then I'll explain about it. But for now, these are the various roles that you'll interact. So the key takeaway from this slide: first step, once you get into a project, make sure that you understand who are the people you have to interact with to get the detailed requirements. Who is going to tell you the detailed requirements, which are the SMEs, right? And then also make sure that you understand the solution owner. Who are the people? Who is the person who is going to sign off your business requirements document? Who is going to approve your requirements, right? Or review all your documents. So that guy would be the solution owner, right? Make sure that at least you understand these two roles. You figure out who are these people from the business side who are performing these roles. Right? Very important for you from a business analyst role point of view. Okay. So generally, the responsibilities of a project are. I was explaining about the roles. Make sure that you identify the subject matter experts and the solution owners. So those are the key people who will give you the functional requirements, right? So the rest of it again can figure out, but make sure that you clearly identify that. That's the first step that you have to do when you get into your project.
Please help me understand one thing. Who is the solution owner? Is it a stakeholder or someone else?
Yeah. See, he would be from the business team. Usually, somebody has to take all the decisions and review the final product, final application or system which is developed. Right? We call them as a product owner, solution owner, or application owner. They have multiple names, but he pretty much owns that system what is being developed from a functional side, right?
Okay.
Now,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So this guy would basically take all the decisions regarding what should be in scope, what should not be in scope, if something has to be approved, right? So he will be the person who would actually take all those decisions. Okay. Now, he is usually from the business team, and all the functionality related decisions he would take. His call would be the final call. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Now,
okay.
He would assign some people to the project from his team, from the business team, who would give you the detailed requirements. So you would interact with these SMEs and understand the requirements, but it finally would go to the solution owner or the application owner to finally approve the BRD, right? So the requirements what you have documented would finally be approved by the solution owner.
Yeah, this functional requirements are given by subject matter experts and solution owners, and non-functional are given by developers.
Not developers. So if you recall from the previous sessions, I've told you that there are primarily three teams: development, QA, and ops team, right? So some of these non-functional requirements would come from the dev team, some from QA team, and from some the ops team, right? Now, developers actually might be from the vendor team, right? So like if, let's say if Accenture is implementing the system, the developers would be from the the Accenture team, but there would be a dev team as part of the the client also, like the Citibank. Now they would have some standards, but these are my coding standard, this is my reference architecture, and these are my standards for some of these features like performance and security and all. So those would come in from that dev team, right? So I think when I get into that specific topic of non-functional requirements, I'll explain that. So that's the reason I have not touched upon that. Non-functional requirements would come from different kind of people, but for functional requirements, it would primarily be the SMEs. You will have identified some 3-4 people from the business side who will give you the detailed requirements and who would be approved by the application or solution owner, right? Non-functional requirements, I'll talk about it at a later time, because once we get clarity on the functional requirements, I think you'll be in a much better position to understand about what non-functional requirements are. So I'm trying to postpone that topic to a later point so that it doesn't create a lot of confusion. Okay. So key takeaway from this slide: identify your SMEs, identify the solution owner, and make sure that you clearly know who is going to tell you the detailed requirements and who is going to sign off, approve your requirements, right? Solution owners approve, subject matter experts tell you the detailed requirements, right? So the hierarchy would be like this: there would be executive sponsor, right? So under him would be the solution owner, and under him would be the SMEs, right? So this would be the reporting hierarchy kind of thing, right? So you might not even interact with the executive sponsor, right? So there are very senior guys in the project, will not generally get into the operational activities of the project. Okay, so all those decision making is done by the solution application owner, and then the details are provided by the SMEs. Clear about this? Any questions? All of you?
No question.
Great. So let's move on. So primarily, when at the start of the project, the project manager would ensure that he identifies all these key people and the roles and responsibilities. Now he would maintain one document called as project charter, right? So maybe you can search for it later. It's called as a project charter document, which consists of all the details regarding the project, right? So your roles and responsibilities also would get into the project charter, and you would either define it using a detailed overview about each of these roles and explain that these are the 5-6 things that he would be doing.
Thanks for watching the video. Please like, comment and subscribe for more updates.